Good afternoon.
I wanted to ask you
Uh-huh.
if there was a version for like if I wanted to put like my personal finances in QuickBooks.
Mhm.
Which one should I get?
You'd be more probably you can use QuickBooks, but you're probably looking like Quicken. Quicken, yeah. Well,
Okay.
that's what it's designed for.
You mentioned that too before. Quicken. I think in the beginning of the class.
Yeah. So they do have, and there are competitors to Quicken. But
Okay. Well, I use TurboTax, so
oh yeah.
I tend to stay with the same thing that
Yeah.
I'm familiar with. And Intuit. Yeah. They pretty much play the same, right?
Yeah. Although they don't tell you that. They tell you how much better they are than everybody else. Good afternoon.
Are you in the car?
Yeah.
I didn't even see you.
You know?
Yeah, I walked in. Were you in the Bronco or you parked over here?
No, I came in my buggy. That other one was the one.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
How much do you think that's you?
I
Oh,
came in my buggy,
man.
yeah.
Good thing I didn't say anything. I said, good thing I didn't say anything to the person in there.
Oh, there's no one in there.
No, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's a good thing there weren't no talking to you.
You were like waving, like, no.
They just think you're friendly, that's all.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, towels work and everything. I think there's soap in there. If not, we do have various dispensers.
We're so used to the other one.
Yeah, electronics, yeah. Like when people walk into the glass doors at the store.
Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Was that one having troubles?
Yes.
Oh, take a look.
Just set up, my internet.
Oh.
Everything.
Uh-oh.
There's an issue with it. Honestly, sometimes I
So please do log into QuickBooks. And when you open it up, you should get something like this. On any of these little windows that pop up, if you don't want to see them anymore, you can just close them. And you can always go back to them later. And you'll see QuickBooks is already starting to observe things for us. So like we need to do some invoices and receive payments. So that's coming up. But to do that, we're going to have to set up a checking account first. So when you're working with QuickBooks, you have to pay and receive payments. So that's going to come out of some kind of savings account or a checking account. So to do that, we're going to go to the chart of accounts. And to get the chart of accounts, we're going to use this little wheel up here. Here's our list. And there is the chart of accounts. So we looked at this yesterday. And you'll see we technically do have a bank account already. We have the cash account, cash on hand. You can also set up what's called a petty cash account, which is just an internal account, could be a little shoebox or something, and it's just basically cash for small purchases. As you're going to see, when we do our purchases, it's going to be a process. For just little things like you just ran out of staples, you need staples right away, it's not worth going through the whole process, so you can use your petty cash. So to set up a new account, our bank account, we're going to use this green button in the upper right-hand corner for new.
I don't have a cash.
Oh, okay, it might not have. That's okay, because we're going to set up a petty cash one on our own anyway. So once again, on the accounts, if you have them set up in an Excel worksheet or something, you can import them. But for us, we're just going to click new. And you should get this new category thing here. So we're just going to call this the basic checking account. Now, when it comes to a name, again, it's just how it's going to show in your computer, but they do need to be distinct from one another. If your company has more than one checking account, like a Wells Fargo checking account, Bank of America checking account, Citibank checking, whatever, you can put dash and the name of the bank just to keep them separate. Underneath that, you're going to have select category. So this is going to tell the computer what type of account this is. So we're going to do is set up a bank account. So you'll see bank and credit cards here. But you could set up another income account, expense account. Again, those two, the top up here, kind of be wary about setting too many of those up because, again, it gets a little more confusing. And the general chart of accounts that we're using it's pretty extensive. So usually you can find a way to fit something into one of those categories or not. And it just makes it easier when you're talking to somebody else, like say your bookkeeper or accountant, to use the standard accounts. If you kind of make up your own, you have to explain them. So once you click on bank and credit cards, we're going to click select.
To get where you're at now, where do we start at?
Start up here at new. So when you show the chart of accounts, I went to the little cog here, and you get the chart of accounts on the left side. And it's going to pop up the list. And click on new.
Because we have the same.
Yeah, mine has the account type, detail
Yeah.
type, name, description.
Both of us have the same thing.
Oh, okay. The same stuff, just kind of
Yes.
sort of different. It's
All right,
interesting.
so what do we do now with this one?
Okay, so let me go back. I'm going to do new account.
So account type,
Here, let's get this called basic checking.
So it's gonna be the name, right?
Yeah, it's the name of your account. And then the category is going to be a bank type. So you want to show it as a bank type. Just calling it, yeah, basic checking. Just so you know, it's again, just to keep it
Detail is
different.
just checking, right?
Right. So you'll see again, here is another way to set up different types of accounts. If you're a landlord, you might have rents held in trust. That means the money you're going to collect is going to be held for a specific purpose. So we'll just do checking. So however your layout is, you want to make sure that you've got it as checking as the style.
Little description, right?
Now, you could put one in if you wanted to. Yeah, like I said, if you had multiple accounts, since ours is basic checking, it's basically the checking account we're going to use for our purchases. Now, some companies will have separate checking accounts. Some maybe want to just have one account for payroll and they go through one bank. Another one will just have, that's where we're doing our processing for our payments, for our products and things like that. But we will select the date. I'm going to say today. And again, just like before, how much money do you have in the account? So I'm going to give you $10,000. Oh, it goes fast. When you're starting a new business, that's called the burn rate. You have so much cash to start with, and then it takes a while to start making a profit. So you're burning up through, like this case, your $10,000 to pay rent and everything. And if you get to the end, you're stuck. So then description, you can leave blank, or if you feel like putting something in, you're always welcome to do that. And then I'll click save. So now I have a checking account with $10,000 in it. Now you notice before I said, whenever you do any kind of transaction, you have to tell the computer where it's from. And we didn't really tell it where to get this money. You know, did I find it? Did I get it from a loan from my mom? Is it out of my pocket? So because we didn't, the computer actually went down and it categorized it for us. So as I scroll down, you're going to see opening balance equity. See how categorizing here? There's a 10,000. So it's saying, all right, 10,000, don't know its source, that's up to you, but I do know we did start off with that balance. So that's why it's putting here under open balance equity. So it's already doing, remember I said all those transactions in the background, it's already doing that stuff for us, which is good. Go back to my checking account. So here's my basic checking. On the right-hand side, you'll see we have the ability to view the register. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So once in a while, you get up, when you start something new, you'll get one of these little hints, and it's basically telling you about the register. We're going to go through that. If you want to read it, you can. It's basically what I'm going to tell you right now is here is our register.
How did you get to big register? I'm sorry.
I was in the chart of accounts here. And then on the right-hand side, you should see view register. If not, if I made a mistake, like typed it wrong, I could go to edit and make changes. If you ever end a banking account, let's say you close it out and you don't want it to show anymore, you don't want to delete it, right? Because it's got all those transactions that you used it for. But you don't want it to show on your list because you're never going to use it again. You can do what's make inactive. You'll see that in the list here too. So you can always do that. If you do make it inactive, you can always reactivate it if you need to. And you'll see that a lot, like even on customers. We'll get into that a little bit later, but you can, if a customer you know is never coming back, you can make them inactive. And then it just keeps your list clean. But you never want to delete their history. So that's why they have that option. All right, so as we go across, so this is designed like the little bank registers used to get with new checks. It had two lines. Mine were white and green. This is white and gray. And you'll see they're stacked up on top of each other. So it says like here, ref no, so reference number and type. So in this case, for our transaction, there's no reference number, so it's blank. But the type is deposit. Since it's opening balance equity, there's no payee, I'm not paying anybody. So that's blank. Even memo here, you know, just says opening balance. And then you have a category here for payment. Well, there's no payment. It was deposit, so it shows it here under deposit. So you'll always have one number here under deposit or under payment, never both. Even if you go to the bank, make a deposit and get cash back, it counts as two transactions. So you have two lines. And then on the right-hand side, you've got this reconciliation column. It's got a little R in there for us. As we go through our transaction, it's going to be blank. You know what that's for? What you're supposed to do. Everybody's supposed to do this. At the end of the month, when you get your banking statement, you open it up and you pull out your checkbook and you go through and make sure everything went through, right? And as soon as you checked it off, okay, confirmed, you can click on this blank and it'll turn into an R. Does everybody do that? No. Do you know who loves that you don't do that? Gyms, subscription services, all those things that you sign up for and then you forget. And you know, it's not like $1,000 a month. Maybe it's more like $20 a month. So you really don't pay attention to it. And if you don't do the reconciliation every month, you forget about it till 6 months later, you go, oh, whoops, I forgot to drop that. Yeah. So that's why that's my theory as to why so many places want to become subscription services now, is because then it's automatic from then on. They don't have to have you renew or anything else.
So R means responsive.
It's reconciled, yeah. That you confirmed with the bank. The bank says 10,000 to start. You say, yes, 10,000 start. We both agree, gets an R. When you click it, you'll see as we go through transactions, you can actually leave it as a question mark. Like if on the bank transaction or the bank statement, it doesn't show the transaction. Where is that? Okay, well, it should be here. I'll put it as a question mark and I'll come back later. Then you go through and do all the ones you can, and then you go back. And then it'd be like I used to do with my grandmother. She'd give me a check for my birthday, and I'd put it in a book, and I'd forget about it. And so 2 months later, she's like, "Hey, where did it happen to that check?" "Oh, yeah, I've got it." So see, she was good. So she would do that. That's what everybody's supposed to do. And of course, nobody does that. Now they have an app that'll do it for you. It'll check all those things that you might not be using and get you to cancel them, so save some money. But other things do happen where a check is lost, especially paper checks. That happens less and less as we get to more electronic transactions, but there can still be some mistakes. So I don't know if you heard about Zelle last week. Yeah, they had a lot of those. So if you're going through your transactions and you expected Zelle deposits, they might not be there. And now they might not carry over, or they might not be there this month. They're going to carry over to next month. So that's why you do the reconciliations.
Okay, so what happened with the Zelle? Because
yeah, some transactions got clogged up, and when people tried to call, it was Bank of America transactions. So they call Bank of America. They say, "Oh, that's Zelle. Call Zelle. Here's their number." Call Zelle. "Oh, that's Bank of America. Here's their number." And neither one would say, "Oh, yes, I know. Let me help you fix that." So they just went back and forth and made a lot of people mad. But things do happen. We do have a setting control here too, with this little cog. And you'll see that once again, just like our reports, you can determine how this displays and what it shows. So right now it's showing memo, the reconciliation status. If you do attachments to your transactions, you can show those. Our running balance, so we can see how much we have. And then here is show on one line. Click that. When I do my paper checking account, I don't know why, I can't explain it, but I feel if I do one line, like I'm saving money because I don't have to get another check register. So if I put them all in one line, it's easy all the way across. However, you don't get as much detail. And if you'll notice, we did lose one thing, the memo. So memo's not showing here. But as we go through, then each transaction will be one line across. So you can do this either way. It kind of depends on your personal preference. You can show 2 lines or 1 line. And you can always change it. It doesn't change what's in the checking account, just change how it's displaying. And sometimes, like if you're trying to find one little transaction, and a lot of your transactions are very similar, I mean, even the numbers are the same, I think having one line makes it easier to thumb through them. Or, of course, you can always do a search. So that works too. You do have a filter up here that'll allow you to search for certain transactions. All right.
Like on the memo, you write down who it was paid out to? Or?
Just like on a check, you put what it's for.
Oh.
So you can, but you don't have to. Now, when we pay utility bills, the memo is going to include our account number. Because remember I said we want to put their account number in for the vendors. So anytime you do that and you have a vendor account number, it will show up there. And that's kind of handy. But otherwise, like if I ever wrote a check to a friend, it would be for, like, I'd write extortion down there, which now I wouldn't, but back then, joking around, you could do that. I don't think you can do that now. So that is our check register. I've got the button here to go back to the chart of accounts. And there's the chart of accounts and my check register. All right, I'm ready to go spend some money. So we got to buy some product. So over on the left-hand side, we're going to get paid and pay. And we're going to start using invoices. Or if you are, when you first boot up, open it up, remember we had that invoice button? You can use that one too. Takes you to the same spot. But by clicking invoices here, I got this report. Tells me I have nothing this month. Yes, I know. But it will track your invoices that are outstanding, invoices that are pending, and things like that.
We did chart of accounts and then what?
I went to Get Paid and Pay
It's on here in the.
on the left-hand side under New. You have this. Some do, some don't. If you don't, you can go to the first screen, this one when it pops up, and click on the invoice. Yeah, it takes you to get used to, but once you get used to it, you'll know exactly where it is.
No, I'm putting green, so.
Okay, so remember we started here in the workspace? You can click this. Send invoices. If you do use the Get Paid and Pay, you're going to click on New Invoice. And you're going to see there are some shortcuts. We're going to do the long way first. So we do it the hard way, then you appreciate the shortcuts.
How did you get to that, all those icons there?
I went to Home, the little house at the top, Get Things Done. And then I had to scroll down because on mine, it's still showing all the ads or all the things it wants me to do. So you can always do this shortcut here, New Invoice. On the desktop version, Control-I is Invoice. I like that the best.
For me, it doesn't take me to that.
Okay. If you go to the house here, the home, you try that. Okay. And did you get? Hold on, mine's catching up. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention something. Once in a while, QuickBooks doesn't always update immediately. So when I clicked on Get Things Done, this workspace, I had to scroll down to see it because it put a bunch of stuff on top. So when it comes up, it may look more like what's going to come up now. So if you ever get stuck on something that doesn't look right, always try refresh. As we go along, I'll show you a couple that always happen. And I call it a bug. I'm not sure they would, but I would think it could be a problem to not update immediately. Because there's a couple of things like if you do a credit memo, it doesn't always update immediately. You have to hit refresh to see the new numbers. And it looks like you didn't do anything. It didn't like me jumping around so much. Now, while I'm waiting, so the invoice is when we bill our customers, right? So you have to have product to do it. Actually, technically, in QuickBooks, you don't have to have product. It'll actually let you sell in the negative. Because remember, we told it we're going to do inventory parts. So even though we don't have anything, we can sell it and it will show a negative number. If I sell 2 fountain pens, it'll show -2. Why would it let you do that? Well, there's a couple of circumstances for that. One is inventories are notoriously off. Just, as people come in, things happen. Shoplifters, that's one thing, especially these days. But even just people misplacing things and it gets put in a box and that box gets thrown away. So, mysteriously, it'll disappear. What's strange is when you have more than you think you do. But that's possible too. Somebody just didn't do it right, didn't do a calculation right. So that's why a lot of retail companies will have inventory days where they basically shut down the whole place and everybody goes out and counts. And that's a way to just reset the inventory. And even those, that doesn't always work. That's not 100%. I was in Barnes & Noble once buying a book and I got it from the shelf, put it to the cashier, and she said, "Oh, it says we don't have any of these." I guess we do. So yeah, I guess so. It's right here. So her inventory was off. So let's see if I can do this. If it'll do this while I'm waiting.
You basically have to count every
Yes, one of my first jobs. It's a temporary agency, and they did that. And you go out everything. You know, if you got a little box of bubble gum and it's been opened and one may be missing, so you can tell, you have to count them to make sure. And it's really hard. It's really boring. And the place I did it, they shut down. They didn't want to bother the customers, so they shut down overnight, and they brought in the temporary crew to do all the counts. If you ever go through Costco, sometimes you'll see a pallet and it's got shrink wrap around it and it says DNI. That means do not inventory, because they're not going to track that as part of their inventory. So they don't want people to count it when they're checking inventory. For our count, they wanted to double check. So every item had to be counted twice by 2 different people. And the way it worked is they say, Dan, go out and count those shoes. Okay, I go and count the shoes, write it down, turn it in. At some point along the line, they'll ask somebody else, go count those shoes too. So they do. If the numbers don't match, we both have to go back and count them again, separately. And we do it till they match. Okay, sounds like a good idea, right? Oh, make sure you got solid numbers. So like when I was doing something, somebody came up to me and said, hey, Dan, you counted those shoes, right? Yeah, I got 22. What did you get? I don't want to have to count them again. So just tell me what you got. I'll write it down. Yeah. So luckily it was the same number, but okay, now you just defeated the whole purpose for doing that. No, no, we barely finished because it's, just even a single count, because everything, I mean, it's up to the manager, right? How much they want to do. But most of the time they need to do everything. Sometimes little things, like gum, I use gum. They wouldn't care that much about it. But, dresses, shoes, hats, all that stuff, that's their bread and butter. And you're not just counting items, you're counting sizes, right? And any variations. So, like I said, whatever the SKU number matched, you would have to recount. All right, so I'm moving kind of slowly here. Yep. Now, if you're good at it, you get hired everywhere.
Every time I say you're in inventory.
No.
If you're applying for a retail job, they say, well, tell me about yourself. If you really want the job, say, oh, well, I've been working 20 years or whatever. And you know what? I find I really like doing inventories. I don't know why. I'd get into a zen. I mean, even if you don't, because they'll say, oh, that's great. We need somebody who likes inventory.
Yeah.
And they'll hire you.
They just say they do.
Yeah.
I used to count, there were doors, frames, and hardware. So locks, big plates, signs. So we have to count every single lock. And they're different colors or finishes, as they say. So you have to make sure you are counting the right one.
Very tedious.
Full day.
But if you get into it, it's you can get into the groove, I guess.
It's like, how does the door walk out of here?
Well, we'll get into this because one of the things we can do is you can adjust the inventory on hand. And so you can do that on the computer. Well, you have to be careful with that, because sometimes the reason they're adjusting it on hand is because they put it in their car and drove off with it.
Yeah.
The employee?
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yeah, everybody thinks the biggest theft issue stores have to worry about is customers, but it's employees. Mm-hmm. Especially when employees mad. Yes.
Not all the places. There's certain places that no.
I remember I was going to a wedding and it was a shower, and they wanted a bread box. So I purchased the bread box. And when I got home, it was stuffed with CDs in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did it not, the whatever, it beeps when you're exiting, and yeah, but it was like a lot of kids. And I thought, I'm gonna take it. that, because they're gonna tell me that I'm the one that.
Well, I
So
think,
An employee prepared it and
Yeah.
left it.
Or
and
them
then
to take it later and buy it.
Yeah.
They ended up with the bread.
They ended up with the empty one.
you should have gone back with a note slipped in the box that says, "We are watching you."
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Target too.
Then it was at Walmart. They had an employee who got busted, was in cahoots with a customer. What they would do is they would take the UPC code, like you have here, something like this, take a razor blade, cut it out, paste it on a TV. So they'd scan it, the person would pay for it, everything looks legit, right? But they paid $10 for a $100 TV. But and the thing is, you could probably get away with that once or twice, but they kept doing it and they had a ring going. And so they noticed all their money was disappearing. And so they did an investigation and found it, charged them both. Let me go back to chart of accounts real quick because I meant to mention something. So after I created my checking account, you'll see at the top up here, it says you're using one of your 250 accounts. After we created it, it still said 0. This is one of those updates that didn't update. Now it doesn't really matter because we're way away from 250. But remember I said yesterday, you're allowed 250. You can make up as many as you want until you hit 250, and then you have to expand your license. So it is keeping track, and there we go. All right, now let me try the invoices again. So what I did is I switched over to the private browsing and logged in again and see if that's going to do a better job because mine was crashing. So in invoices, an invoice, I said, is what QuickBooks uses for customers. Even though when you get something from one of your vendors, it might say invoice on it, QuickBooks will call that a bill. So it's just one of those little things it does. So of course, we don't have anything to sell yet. So we need to do that first. So under Get Paid and Pay, you should also have bills. And our vendors. So here's where, when we do have bills to pay, it will show up here. Vendors shows us everybody we put in. And you're going to see this box here. It says purchase order, $0 in purchase orders. The way we're going to buy stuff is we're going to alert our vendors that we want to buy something with what's called a purchase order. And it's just like it sounds. It's an order for a purchase, right? Whatever I tell them I want. Then they're going to send this stuff and they're going to bill me. Then I got to pay the bill. So that works. So it's kind of like ordering a pizza, right? The pizza company doesn't know you want a pizza until you call up and say, hey, we need a pizza. Okay, so that's your purchase order. Then from that purchase order, they send their delivery driver out, they deliver the product, and then you pay for it. Well, same thing here. So as we go through, I'm going to start off with ABC Warehouse here. You'll see on the right-hand side, it says create bill. Now, the reason it doesn't say create purchase order first, and you have to click here to see it, is because not every company uses purchase orders. Purchase orders add one more layer to the process. So we're going to do that just to learn it, but it's also a little bit more formal. And there's some checks and balances along with it. So I'm going to click on create purchase order. So there's a purchase order for ABC Warehouse. And here's my first purchase order. You'll see because I selected ABC Warehouse, all my information pops up automatically. Here for shipping address, here's my store. I didn't put an address in for my store, so I'm going to do that now. I'll say I'm 15. Oh, hold on. I actually want to know our address. So everybody needs to use the same address, and I'll tell you why. When we do the sales tax, it's gonna want to know our specific address. So I believe I know Del Puerto. There we go, 640 M Street. So from here, you're going to see create bill on this side, but I'm going to use the drop down arrow here. Yeah, it's kind of hidden. So there's create purchase order. The reason we have to use that address to be correct is because the QuickBooks geolocates your home base, your company, and creates sales tax based on where you exist. And you think, well, I could have put Modesto. And the problem with that, I think I mentioned the other day, was Modesto may have higher taxes than Patterson or lower. Same with Atwater. You know, they put on these municipal taxes, so it does make a difference. So I'm going to just change it while I'm here. If you don't, we can adjust it when we do the sales tax. No, where, well, there, where your company is, because it's supposed to be where the sale takes place. Well, let's say it's on the internet, they've ordered through the internet, they live in Florida, the server is in Arizona, so where did that sale take place? And you're in California. Well, okay, so they're just going to assume it's California. Yeah. Now, because it's a Florida purchase, you're not required to charge California sales tax. However, depending on the circumstances, it could be required to do Florida sales taxes. So we'll get into that. It's really messy too. Everything's messy. QuickBooks is so easy, but things are messy. The good news is that's why if you get this in here, you don't have to worry about all that. It's interesting to know, but you'll just know that the QuickBooks will know where the person who bought it is from and where you are, and know whether or not you have to collect taxes on it. Okay, so you will see there is an option also to add an email up here. So these are things we chose not to add during vendors, but if you wanted to, you certainly can. If you want to submit this purchase order to the vendor by email, it does have to have an email address in here, right? So you can do that instead of putting it on paper. You'll see the ship to. You can have multiple ship to addresses. Right now, we're a small business, this is going to be us, but you could have 2 or 3 sites or warehouses or even storage areas and include those in there. Our purchase order date is today, and you can even specify how you want it shipped, but we'll leave all that blank. Down here, you're going to see this tags box a lot. It's a new option. It's just for doing searches. If there's something special you want to tag this purchase order with, you can put some verbiage in here. And then when you're looking for things later on, like let's say this is a special order, put in special order. You can do a search. Show me the purchase orders that were special orders. And then boom, 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 they all pop up. So we're not going to be that complicated yet either. You will see down below, we have category details and item details. So each purchase order, each bill, each invoice is going to be one or the other. I'm going to click on the category details. You'll see how that pops up. If this were not a purchase order for products for our store, then I would use this category. So we'll get into that later on. It doesn't really make a big deal on purchase orders, but it will on bills. Item details, that's what we want. So I'm going to click on the first line for product or service, and if I click on the drop-down list, there's all the things I can order. So I started with fountain pen. I'll just grab a fountain pen here. And when I do, see my description pops up. Now this is the description that I did at the second description box when I item set up, because this is my vendor. This is how my vendor sees the fountain pen. And then Quitty, QTY, you can order one. I'm gonna order 10. Don't go too many, because again, the numbers get out of hand. But you'll see as I click on it in that box, it tells me the current quantity on hand, and I got a big red out button. So again, it goes back and checks the inventory and says, oh, you don't have any of these. I don't know if you know this, you're out. So when you're ordering, you might want to think about it. So I said the rate was $4 because we raised it. Well, it popped up here automatically. You'll see in this box though, I could change it. I could change it to say 14 if I needed to. If you're ordering from, let's say a new vendor, let's say I always go to XYZ, but they're out. So now I really need them because I'm out of fountain pens. I have to go to ABC. Well, they have a higher price, which is why I didn't choose them in the first place, but I'm desperate. Okay, but I have to pay their price. So I can change it here. You can make the change and then the computer will track that you bought these for more. It will also ask you, do you want to make this permanent? If you say no, then it goes back to default to the 4. So anything in these boxes you can change. And then you'll see it did the math here for amount. 10 times $4 is $40. And then you'll see this little icon over here. What do you think that icon's supposed to be? Yeah, I always thought, to me, it looked like a Christmas present. Maybe I got Christmas in the mind. But it's supposed to be a trash can. If you decide, oh, that's not right, and you click that, it'll wipe out everything you did. You can start over. So you'll see that everywhere. So you'll notice we have a line 2. I could start adding different things. I don't want to do that now because I only have 5 things to order and I want to practice. But you could order multiple items from one vendor. You can also order, I can order fountain pens from this one. I can go back to another vendor and order fountain pens from that one. So QuickBooks is not forcing you to pick one vendor for one item. If I click add lines, I could keep going, and purchase orders, they can be long, really long. I can also clear all lines and start fresh. Next, you've got message to vendor. So I'm just going to put one in here. So I've talked to them on the phone. They're going to rush it for me. And I'm just going to say, thanks for rushing this order. You don't have to put anything to the vendor, but there is a difference here between thanks for rushing this order and then there's memo. Whatever is under message to vendor will show up on the document, whether you print it or you put it as a PDF by email, the vendor will see it. On the memo, it doesn't, it's for you internally, right? So I'm gonna say vendor is grumpy about having to rush this. Say, don't mix these up because otherwise the vendor would see it. So anything in memo is for your use. Like instead of that, I mean, that's kind of not professional. So if something more professional would be vendor promised to have them here by February 1st, right? And the reason you would do this is we're down to 0. What if all of a sudden customers start coming in wanting fountain pens? If my job is to reorder things, right, then the boss is going to come to me and say, why are we out of fountain pens? Aren't you doing your job? Oh, look here. Well, we did, but it's a rush order and the vendor's going to be here by February 1st. Or if somebody calls up the store and a sales clerk answers, they say, do you have any fountain pens? Oh, I'm fresh out. But let me see here. Oh, we have 10 on order. Looks like in the notes it's coming here by February 1st. There you go. And then you'll see attachments. So you can drag and drop. You can load from your computer. If you have some kind of documentation that you want to include with this, you can. Again, like if it's a contract, or more specifically, if a vendor sent you like a report on their inventory of how many they have, and you just want to include it here because this could be a very high demand item and you're worried about getting them in on time, then include it here, then everybody can see it.
You know, if there's a coupon or something, or a logo or something going on, leave that there too? Or?
I would put it in the notes, and if you had an actual coupon, you know, picture of the coupon, you could, sure. If you're using it, because you notice we haven't put the sales tax on this yet, right? And we won't have sales tax because we're going to resell it. But it also, we're not paying for it yet. We're just ordering it. So we have a couple steps to go. And by the time that step rolls around, everybody might have conveniently forgotten about the coupon and you want to refresh. Oh yeah, wait, what happened to my coupon? All right, down below, we do have a few more buttons. Cancel, obviously stop everything you're doing to start over. Clear would wipe out all the transactions we started putting in here. You'll see there's print. If you're hooked up to a printer, you can print. And then you'll see make recurring. So remember I said you can program QuickBooks to automatically do certain things. So let's say every month I need 10 fountain pens. So I've ordered this here. This is my purchase order. I want 10 fountain pens from ABC. I click on make recurring. I can tell it monthly, I want you to send this out automatically. And then there's two ways you can do it. It can be a reminder, so it'll pop up a little note next month, or it could just do it for you and it'll put it in the queue to go out. The advantage of this is a lot less work, right? If you know you're going to do it every month, let the computer do some work. The disadvantage is if you tell it, if you don't put an end date on it, it'll do it till the end of time. And it's one of those things that if you forget about it, you'll end up with a whole bunch of fountain pens and wondering, wait, where did these all come from? So you do have to be careful going too far with that. And then I'm just going to save and close. So you'll see my open balance for ABC Warehouse hasn't changed, but my purchase order shows I have $40 worth of purchase orders pending. That's because they got the purchase order, but they haven't sent the items yet. That's coming next. Okay, so while we're here, I'm going to click on products and services. Take a look at those. So I ordered fountain pens. And you'll see here, quantity on hand is still 0. So this doesn't change until I receive the items from that purchase order. So hopefully they get it and they're packing them up. And then if they're really good, they send a little note. I don't know if you ever order those things online. They send you a note. Oh, what is it, the word? You got to watch the wording. It doesn't say shipped. It says your order has been processed and is en route or something like that. And then if you click on the tracking, you see all they did is they printed the shipping label. It's still there. It's not, the UPS doesn't have it yet. It's still sitting at their place. And then you can watch it as it goes. So if you get into all that, you can actually tie that into QuickBooks too. And those can go to emails to customers and makes them happy, makes them feel like things are happening. Let me go back to vendors. And with that, it's 6:54. It's break time. We'll take a 10-minute break. We'll come back and then we'll receive the purchases. Yeah, don't go in the closet. That's closet, that's restroom. Then there's another restroom out on the basketball court too. You forgot you moved. Was it in your house or was it outside?
They don't know, but they're gonna fix it. like outside, inside, under, wherever. Yeah, but I know he was there for a long. But he didn't- Now. Like, oh, it is. You're wanting.
Well, we had installed a new stove for my mother-in-law. Somehow he crimped an old line. Get out. Call PG. Oh, it's just it's fine. I said, no, that's why it stinks. I said, gas doesn't smell. They put that smell in there to let you know, and then you're supposed to open the windows, or not even open the windows, just leave. But you can't. They came. He brought a little detector and found it. I'll fix the part. Really nice. It worked.
Get everything electric, please. I know, that's what I'm saying, but you're gonna keep it.
We got a blackout and then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can't win, right? Guess you have your own generator.
Even though sometimes if you don't do maintenance on them, they won't work.
Right? And you have to buy gas,
Yes.
keep them going. Well, my idea when we started the school was we were in a strip mall with a convenience store. So sometimes people get their groceries. So I noticed that. And I said, you know what we should do? We should set up exercise bicycles, put the laptops on the exercise bicycles, and in order to work on your Excel, you have to pedal. So it'd be a weight loss, convenience store, gas station, and everything. And I said, then you've got incentive because you know if you stop, you're going to lose all your Excel work, right? So you got to keep pedaling. And they said, yeah, don't come up with so many ideas.
But believe it or not, some, they do that. Some companies, some, what is it?
For
bicycles, they have
for ergonomics, it's good to move around. That's why we do the brakes and everything. But it's hard, and they say that like sitting's the new smoking because people sit all day in offices and they don't get up, and it can be bad. So you'll see all kinds of chairs. They even had for a while. Do you remember those big balls, the balance balls, and it's supposed to keep your core solid and everything? That was a fad. And then we had one we tried. It was the chair was at an angle, so you sat at an angle, and your knees hit a pad, and you sat up that way. So nobody liked it. Nobody liked the regular chairs.
That's why they have the best risers now.
Yep. Oh, and now they sell them for standing. So the headline is "Sitting is the new smoking." So right, companies jump on it and they say, well, if sitting's bad, standing must be good. So now they have them where you could stand and work all day, and that may not be a very good either.
No, I do have them now because mine is a riser. If I get tired of sitting, I'll just get up and work. Yeah, mine is a riser. I go up and down all day.
Yeah, that's good. We tell our students if they ever start getting backaches, try adjusting your chair a little bit. Even if you're comfortable, just move it a bit because it's that angle that you're doing repetitively and you're trying to break that up. Even with the mouse, people get sore wrists. So they came up with a foot mouse. It was on the floor, and it's kind of like a sewing machine pedal. So it stayed on the floor, and you pushed your foot around. When you wanted to click, you tap with your toe. But that didn't catch on.
No. Well, now they sell this mouses that have like a little ball, and
Yep.
it's supposed to be
It's the
like
upside down
a
trackball.
ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband has one of those at work, and he's like, "You don't like it?" I said, "No, keep that thing away from me. I can't do that."
They had another one. It was a head mouse. So it was a headband, and it looked like a little camera. But it would, wherever you moved your head, the mouse would move. And they actually developed it for paraplegics and quadriplegics.
Oh.
So they said, hey, we got this device. Let's market it to the office. A cure for the mouse. So we got one to try it, and I gave everybody neck aches doing this all day.
How would you flip?
We have to do a quick jerk. Yeah, like that. So, so I was sure it takes getting used to. And then I did see somebody made one with it's a ring. And so wherever you move your finger in a certain way, it knows it's the mouse, and you're supposed to just get coordinated that way. But that was a flash in the pan too. But if you go on there's plenty of different options. Looking for a better chair. Now we're talking about chairs. Everybody's thinking about their chair. Yeah, it's not very comfortable.
For the advanced class, you do payroll in sheets or just the payroll?
Well, we go into payroll, all the aspects of payroll, and then we also do additional advanced features, like kind of some things I've been mentioning on the chart of accounts in the journal and things like that. So yeah, we put in a pretend employee, and then we hire them and fire them after we pay them a few times, right? Well, it's just like what we're doing now. The process is simple. It's when you get people involved, just things happen. So like absences and things like that. So you still have to account for them, but QuickBooks will do all the bookkeeping parts behind scenes. So it keeps track of like if they have sick leave accrual, medical leave, all that stuff, vacation.
How do you know if they have sick, say they extinguish their sick leave, when do they acquire additional sick leave?
It's generally based on payroll periods. So if they're paid like every 2 weeks, then every 2 weeks they'll earn 0.2 days of sick leave or something like that. So as soon as they hit that mark, now the computer will say, all right, there's 0.2 more sick days. So if they had 0, now they have 0.2 sick days, which is what, 2 hours, an hour. And then if they don't use it, next time they earn some more and they earn some more, it keeps adding up. And there's all kinds of rules with that too. Yeah, when I was at the county, the guy in charge of the computers, really dedicated, right? He's always there. And they found out he was always there. He never took sick leave for 30 years. They didn't have a rule about, sometimes companies will have a rule. If you don't use sick leave within 5 years, it zeroes out. He had like 6 months of sick leave. So when he announced his retirement, he left 6 months early to use it. And they couldn't stop him. That was the deal. And then guess what happened? A new rule came out. Thou shalt no longer be able to keep your sick leave longer than whatever. Yeah, you got to use it or lose it.
Yeah, and even sometimes it stops at a certain time, right?
Yeah.
Not accrue more until.
It's up to each company and each
Yeah.
organization.
Or you give it in advance, which is by California law, it's 3 days a year.
My wife works for the county, and they have a rule. I forgot how this started. It was somebody had a dire emergency, and they had to take sick leave. So you could donate your sick leave to another person. Isn't that nice? Yeah, the first time, till everybody else realizes, well, I need sick leave, and so they're all asking each other, well, can I get some sick leave? Would you mind donating some? And now it's like, I don't know if you ever watched the GoFundMe pitches. It's like that. On the county web server, they'll say, my daughter is going to get married, and then something, but she just broke her leg or whatever. Some story. And anybody who could donate sick leave to me, I could really appreciate it. Or not sick leave, I guess that'd be vacation. But see, that was the problem. Once they did it for one, they got to do it for everybody. And now people are lobbying each other. And I was thinking, if you say no and they get mad at you, how can you prove it's because of the sick leave? That was so unfortunate, but it just causes more problems. All right, so we're back here. All right, so here's my ABC warehouse. I am now going to create bill. So you'll see, like we had before, it says create bill. So just click on that. Remember I told you about QuickBooks ads? I got one. New, pay any vendor with a bank transfer for free in bold. So at least they're not scams. They are things they offer. All right, so when I selected my bill, it looks very similar to the purchase order in the layout. You'll see the vendor on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, QuickBooks realized you've got open purchase orders for this person, this vendor. If you want, you can just add here. Now you'll see I don't have to. I've got my category down here. I could start over with another order here and start putting it in for items. But I want to use the purchase order. So I'm going to click here, add, and watch what happens. When I scroll down to item, there's my order. Okay. So what's happened is my vendor has received the purchase order. They sent me the stuff and they sent me the bill along with it. Here's a rule of QuickBooks. You cannot pay a vendor unless you have a bill. I have to do this in order to owe the vendor some money in QuickBooks. So you have to do this bill part. You don't have to do the purchase orders, but you definitely have to do this part, even if you make it up from scratch. So once again, you'll see that we got the controls down at the bottom, including another make recurring. So you could do a bill over and over again. And you would do this in a bill, say it's your rent. So the rent's gonna be the same every month. It's paid the same time every month. You can set up a recurring payment. Here is a bill every month. Down here, down below, we have save and schedule payment. And as I click on it, there's a few other choices. So save and schedule would actually take us to the payment section right now. We don't want to do that quite yet. Save and new will save this and bring up a blank screen so I can do another bill, not a purchase order, but a bill, or save and close. So I'm going to pick save and close. As I do that, I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but you might see it on yours. You'll see there's Control Alt D. Remember I said they don't do the regular shortcuts on the online version of QuickBooks, but they do have a few here. Like in this case, if I hold the Control key down, the Alt key down, and type D, that'll be save and close instead of clicking on it. So there are a couple of shortcuts, not as good as the desktop one. And the reason is you're doing this in your browser, and your browser has shortcuts. So they have to come up with new ones. That's why it's convoluted here with Control Alt D. So I'll save and close it. Done. All right, look what happened to my purchase orders. It's now 0. Why? Because that's been converted now into a bill. So it's zeroed that out. But I do show one open bill here at $40. And if I look here at my open balances, there's my $40. So now I owe them. Now remember I said when we set these up, we're going to give ourselves 30 days. So technically I don't have to pay that for 30 days. We're going to pay our bills early because we're not going to be here for 30 days. But you could just leave it here. So just having dollar amounts here or even here in purchase orders doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Overdue, okay, that's bad. That's the only one that's really bad. The other ones, you want to see that kind of stuff because you have the flow of all these vendors moving in and out. You know, the new orders, paid, new orders. So those numbers are okay. Even down here with open balance. Okay, on the right-hand side with ABC Warehouse, you can schedule payments. That's if you want to schedule a payment with a time, like, so 30 days from today would be what, April or February 26th at 7:10 p.m. Well, that's when it's technically due. So I can schedule it to go out on February 26th at 6:59 p.m. Right? Hold it to the last second and do an electronic payment. So you can set those up this way, especially if you have a credit card. We're just going to make payment. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. So when you click on make payment, it's going to bring up the payment screen. There it comes.
Create expense or check, create purchase or make it simple.
Okay. Let me come see. So you don't see these here? Like that? Oh, wait, before you think that. That's why Z. Click add. Click adding. There's a purchase order. Good. Yeah. Good. Now, see, we're going to actually use that drop down list again. I meant to look at one thing before we went to this, because we got the bill, right? And we got the items. If I go to my products and services, I now have 10 items on hand for fountain pens. So see that updated. Have I paid for them yet? No, not yet. I'm going to, but I got 30 days. So here's something sometimes companies will do. They'll buy stuff they can't really afford, hoping to sell it and tell their customers their terms are due on receipt. Means as soon as you buy it, you got to pay. So they hope to get enough money from those sales to pay the vendor at 30 days so they're not late. It's a bad idea. And if you're in that company that does that, get your resume up to date, because you can do that once or twice, but if they're doing that regularly, it doesn't take long for one bad thing to happen. And then once you get your vendors mad, they won't work with you anymore, and then you're really stuck. But that's the way it works, is right now I have 10 on hand that I can sell before I even need to make a payment. But I did say we're going to be super customers to our vendor. So there's my ABC warehouse, make a payment, and it brings up our payment screen. So again, you got their name, they're the payee now. You'll see next to that, we can now choose which account we wish to pay this from. We're going to use the basic checking. So that came up automatically. I will tell you, if you do have more than one checking account and you use them more than once, QuickBooks will remember the last one you used and put that up here. Now, if that's right, great. But it never hurts to double check that, because sometimes when you're doing these things, that's one of those things you forget to look at, and it can be coming from the wrong account and makes a mess. So it never hurts to double check. And you'll see here the payment date. You can adjust the payment date for any day you like. Reference number is going to be on the check. So nobody likes check number 1. So I'll put 1021. So it looks like, wow, I must have been in business a long time. I got 1,000 checks going out, right? So I have all my checks started. Even 1001 is too suspicious. So if you start at like 121, then, well, you're an old established firm. You'll also see there's a print later button. So what you can do is you don't have to put any numbers in here. You can do all the checks and it will hold them. And then let's say you're doing paper checks. You could tell it, print all the checks now. And it will start at whatever number you tell it, like in this case, 1021. And it'll go 1021.22 all the way down till it does the last check. So it's called a queue. So it puts them in the queue and just holds them there temporarily till you're ready to print. And if you check that box, that means from now on, it'll remember that and always put them in the queue. So we're not going to do that. If you're sending them by electronic means, same thing. At some point, you have to tell it run the checks, and it will automatically assign them numbers based on the first number that you give it. We had a student got a job at a company, and it was Friday. She called up. She was panicked. She said, I can't get the checks to print. I don't know what's going on. It's payroll day. They're going to hate me because they're not going to have their checks for the weekend. I said, okay, let's go through it. Walk me through it. What do you see? She talked me through it. And I said, is the print later button checked? And she said, yeah. I said, oh, okay. And I showed her, you go into the print queue, tell it print now. And I could hear in the background, bzz, bzz, bzz. She, oh, Thanks. I thought they were gonna kill me because everybody, including the boss, was not gonna get a paycheck that Friday. So that's the queue. You'll see the amount here. Now the amount is in a box. You can change this amount. We don't really have cause to, but any number that's in a box like this can be changed. Down here, you'll see the bill due date, the original amount. It's not in a box. It cannot be changed. But if we want to pay them an extra $2 for some reason, you can do that here. Yeah, throw a little tip in her. Actually, gotta be careful with that. I was joking once at Costco. She gave me the wrong change or something. She said, "Oh wait, here I owe 2 more." I said, "Oh, that was a tip." And she said, "Oh, we can't do that." "Oh, you're kidding." I said, "Yeah, I was kidding, but really, you can't take a tip?" She said, "No, we take a tip, we'll get fired." So some places.
I try to do that for when they take out groceries, you know, and they tell me no.
Yeah, sometimes.
They have cameras.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what they told me
They're okay, obviously they've thought about this, right? They you say, okay, well, what if I just happen to Venmo? Can I see that? At that point, you know, a thank you is fine, right? So here is our memo. Now in this one, I happen to put an account number. So it shows up here. Remember I said it's going to show up on the payment. You want that. And once again, you can have attachments if you have any documents you want to attach to it. You'll see at the bottom, there's print check. And here we go, another ad. Order checks. And guess who I get to order them from? Costco, QuickBooks, Intuit, yeah. But if you're out of checks, that's kind of handy. And save and close. And yeah, I just happened. Remember, I did one. This was my first vendor. I said you didn't have to. Okay. So here we go. Look at now my balance is 0. I owe them nothing. My purchase orders are 0. My overdues, of course, are 0. Open bills are 0, but paid $40 in the last 30 days. I'm going to click on that green box, and there's who I paid. You see how my vendor list got really short? So what it did, it put a filter on. It's showing only the vendors that were involved in payments in the last 30 days. To turn it off, you can click this clear filter / view all and bring them all back. So that works. Let's take a look at our checking account. See what happened. So I'm going to click on the cog, go to chart of accounts. There's my basic checking, and I can see already so much for having $10,000 or 40 less. So I'm going to view the register. And here's my ABC warehouse. So this one obviously has not been reconciled. It just went out and no bank statement. But hooray, they're happy. They got their money. I got the stuff ready to sell.
So reconcile is when they receive the check and cashed it.
They're gonna,
Gone through the bank.
yeah. You're reconciling with the bank, not with the vendor.
So
So you're just making sure the bank had the correct information and that everything was processed. So like this is an electronic transaction, there wouldn't be a paper check, but there still would be a record. And when you get your bank statement, it should show up on the records. I'm going to go back to my vendors through Get Paid and Pay. Is there any questions on that process? Now, I did mention you do not have to use purchase orders. You can go straight to bills, and it works. However, depends on your company and depends on your needs. So, like I said, I work for the county. They have a rule of the county. One person is the only person in the county office of education allowed to do purchase orders. Everybody else, they can ask for quotes, but don't you dare tell a vendor that you're doing a purchase order. And if they ask, you have to say no, only whatever her name is, can do purchase orders. because they don't want everybody ordering stuff and they can't keep track of it. So that she's the bottleneck. So if anybody ever said, hey, I got a purchase order for, did you get it through me? Then it's not a purchase order. Do you have the purchase order form or it's purchase order request form? So in that case, it's very formal. And that's the only way you could purchase things. So like in her case, problem was she was another one who had been there for a very long time, could do everything very easily. The people she had helping her, not so much. And because she did it so well, nobody bothered with it. So if she was sick or she took a vacation, everything bogged down while people tried to figure out how she did it all, got it done. But so that's a very formal one. When I worked at Tri-Valley Growers, we had different plants around Modesto. So there's plant T, plant Y. We were in the labeling plant. So they had all kinds of stuff going on. We did not use purchase orders. However, since I was in charge of accounts payable, I noticed that we ended up with a lot of other people's bills, especially the big plants. The other thing was my supervisor would get mad because she couldn't tell if somebody actually ordered something. You know, how would I know this is legit? So one day she told all the other supervisors at their meeting, you see this green binder? She popped it open. It's binder paper. I've got lines. Purchase order. It starts with a W. We're going to start W0001. When you buy something, if you want us to pay it, you have to put in who it was and just what it was for. It doesn't have to be long, but I just need that on each line. If it doesn't come in with a W purchase order, we're not paying it. And the other supervisors were like, "Rrr." And then of course, you know, passive aggressive, they just said, forget her, I'm just going to do it anyway. And so Bill came in and said, do you want me to pay it? Does it have a purchase order with a W? No. Send it over to him. Put it in interoffice mail. Send it to him. And here, let me give it to me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to put a note. This does not have a W purchase order. Till it does, we're not paying. And she had to do that a few times. And sure enough, they learned and everybody filled it out. So that way they could be sure that when they paid it out of their budget, it was coming out of the right plant's budget. Otherwise, you know, it's not the vendor's fault. There's so many Tri-Valley growers, and we were plant W. Plant W was the labeling, which is not the big cannery. People think Tri-Valley growers, oh, cannery. Yeah, but the labels have to go on there too. That's our job. And we're over here. So any invoices that had, or in this case, bills that had to go through our plant had to have that W purchase order. And it worked. So that was kind of a semi-formal purchase order system. But you'll see they were able to do payments and things without having purchase orders. It just became time for convenience and for accuracy to have a purchase order system. So really it depends on the company. I like them, especially because, as I mentioned, when we get to selling things, you can actually see how many things are on order waiting to be coming in if you're either low or out. So by having a purchase order, you can see what's in process. If it's just, I call up Jane Jones from ABC Warehouse and say, hey, can I get some more of these products? Oh, sure, I'll send them over. Well, nobody knows that except for me. So it's another good way to keep a record of the information. I did work for a software store, and it was the owners were a husband and wife, and the wife did all the ordering, and you could ask her anything and she'd remember it, but she wasn't always there. And so we wouldn't know when things were coming in or not, and nobody had any way of looking it up. So that one, it was a small store. It wasn't bad, but could have been a little bit more convenient to have. All right, so let's practice what we just did. I'm gonna go to my second vendor, and I'm gonna create purchase order. So mine's Fran's Fans, create purchase order. So under products and services, pick an item. It can be the same item, or just want to make sure you get everything, pick another one. I'll do the fidget spinners. I'll do 22. No, it should have, we'll do that later. It should have updated, but it didn't. Not for here. In the real world, you should. Okay, so I went to my next vendor, who was Fran's Fans here. And where it says create bill, I use the drop down arrow, and there's create purchase order. In fact, this kind of gives you a hint. Most companies, most small companies don't bother with purchase orders. That's why create bill comes up first. Because I could just go straight here. Hey, I called Fran's fan. She's sending me fidget spinners. Oh, there they come. You know, I did it by voice. They come in my box, and now I got the bill. So I just create the bill here. So you could do it that way. We're just being a little bit more formal. So here's a bill, and I could start here in my items and start putting in fidget spinners, right? However, I have no record that I ordered them. So I do prefer purchase orders, just from my experiences, kind of handy. And having the computer being able to tell you where they are in process is really helpful, especially if you have angry customers. So I recommend the purchase order system. It does take a little bit more, but also the other thing too is you can run. Remember I said we could run reports on our customers. You can run reports on your vendors and see who are the ones who are shipping things early. So maybe they cost a little more, but I get more stuff in. And hey, I got to keep my customers happy. So you can kind of weigh that and say, well, let's pay a little more and stick with this new vendor. So I go to items, and I'm going to pick another item. How many did I say? 22?
We're selling this from the same vendor, right?
I picked a new vendor. You can, it's up to you. I just was trying to spread things out.
Yeah,
'Cause
but
we-
we're on vendor number 2.
Right.
Okay.
So my first was ABC, now it's Fran's Fans. The QuickBooks does not care where you order things from. In fact, later on, we're going to add some other vendors like Pacific Gas and Electric, the city, and things like that, even the state. Well, if I wanted to order fidget spinners from Pacific Gas and Electric, they would actually show up here in my list and I could select them, and QuickBooks would have no problem with that at all. QuickBooks would think that's just fine. You got a legitimate vendor, you got a legitimate item, we'll process that. Of course, that's ridiculous. So the computer hasn't figured that out. So that's what it takes: a vendor, it takes an item, and that's all you need. It takes the human to say, I know which goes where. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to spread them out too. So then I can also see different amounts. So I'll save and close. And you'll see I don't owe her any money yet, but I do have $165 worth of purchase orders. With this bar up here, if I want to see, oh, I have a purchase order, who is it? I can click on it, and you see how it shows me I've got one open purchase order. I can click on that purchase order, and there it is. Then I say, okay, I'm done looking at it. I want to view all. I can do that. All right, so we're going to be great customers to our vendor. Create a bill. And the only time you're going to see this add to bill is if you have a purchase order up. Now, we're only doing one at a time. It is possible you could have 2 or 3 purchase orders. If you're using this vendor a lot, you might see this block and this one and that one and that one and scroll down, but you only receive these 2, and you can receive them together. You just click add to bill. You just add all. We only have one, but you can add them all, but probably the last one hasn't come in yet because I just placed it. The other ones came in because I placed the order 2 weeks ago. So then you can just add the ones that you received the bills for. So you're matching up this to the documentation you received. So I'm going to click on add. Yeah, once you create bill, it has to be for the same vendor though, otherwise that won't show up. And I'm going to save and close. So once again, my boxes are updated. I do have one open bill. So I see that gray box. And if I want to, I can click on that one and it will show me the open bill. So when you use this filter, I don't have to go back. I can click here to make payment. So I'm going to do that now, make payment. If you're looking at the main list, you can still click make payment. But remember, we just have 5 vendors. You could have 55. It's sometimes easier. Just click that button because it limits who you get to look at.
So because I paid 2 bills, but I have a purchase order, doesn't the purchase order cancel out once you make a?
Once you receive the bill, because right now we just received the bills, now we're going to pay it. So go back to your list here. So do you see anything with the purchase order? Is there a dollar amount?
Yes.
Okay, click that blue button. Oh, mine doesn't show anybody, but you should see somebody down here. And you want to receive the bill or create a bill for this person. Same.
This one?
Yeah. Take it out.
Yeah, you skip that.
They got a bonus.
Oh,
Yeah, see, so if you had done the purchase order, this would not show up. So go ahead and click on add. You just did a shortcut.
oh,
You would have trouble
Oops.
with my
so
supervisor.
that's 660, yeah, because that makes it like I ordered,
Yeah,
I'm paying it twice and I don't wanna do that.
okay. You can, because we're gonna sell all that stuff, but if you really want to, hang on, and we'll delete. So go ahead and process this one, so scroll down.
See. Oh.
Now it's on the. To pay.
Yeah.
So like that.
I mean, I'm there.
Good, okay, so now, if I'm clear filter, so
Well, you
this one,
have
and use this drop
So
down.
I just read it.
to pay the last 30.
Sure. So now it's here, and we're at,
So just because you saved it, doesn't mean you paid it.
yeah, so
Until
you
you
didn't do
say pay bill. I
Uh,
don't know what I have.
Okay, you can do the open bill. Just put in the.
So there's your purchase.
And then pay it.
So,
You
all right.
skip the, from the PO.
Yep, so now we're gonna create a bill, because they're gonna send a product
Without doing
and a
the bill.
bill.
Oh,
So that's what it shows like. So the juice is
but I really haven't.
Now see this?
You did, but you can go, you can go. back.
Well, that's okay. That's not.
Oh, 'cause I think that's the last.
Yeah.
that's-
Now we have one open bill to pay.
Open bill and then
that's
pay
what we're gonna
it
do
when
next.
you do the
So it
open
doesn't
bill
matter
and
if
pay
it doesn't match the same amount?
If you're
Nope.
gonna PO.
Because you're stocking up, so you're buying different products. So they won't, the fountain pens aren't the same.
Yours and on the-
Yeah. And if you want to raise your prices, you can.
Oh.
You can lower prices too. I was driving by a gas station. The person was out there, you know how they have the price of gas with those letters, and he had the long stick. He was raising the prices, and people were honking at him and booing him. Like, come on, it's not his fault. He pays the same price of gas we do. Okay, so there's my one open bill. I can see it down here, 165. So we want to pay that. So let's go ahead and make payment. So there is make payment.
I would have been fired already.
That's why you're here. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know what your prices are, but if you spend more than 10,000, don't worry about it. It'll show in red. You can go in the negative. In the real world, worry about it. But here, it's okay. You can overspend.
I was just telling my husband, it's going really good.
Well, that's why we're doing this a number of times to practice. All right, so here's the amount I want to pay. Again, I said always double check. It's coming out of the right account. Yeah. And it even tells you the balance here of what you got to make sure you have enough to cover it. And I'm going to save and close. So again, Purchase orders are 0, overdue 0, and open bill 0. So it worked. And all my open balances are 0. So for the class, we're going to make sure these are always 0. That's kind of a check to make sure you did everything right. In the real world, these will hopefully never be 0. You want that kind of activity going on all the time. And the more that you have happening here means, theoretically, the more you're selling and making money. So I'm going to go to my checking account by clicking the wheel in the upper right corner again and go to my chart of accounts. So I'm going to click on chart of accounts. And you'll see my balance is even less. So I'm going to view the register. And there we go. It's there. I'm going to click on the one I just did for Friends Fans. Now, if you accidentally did one that you didn't mean to pay, here's how you get rid of it. Any transaction can be deleted. You can also edit it if you just need to make a change. So I went to, first of all, the chart of accounts, and then the general checking, or basic checking. And then by clicking on this transaction, it pops up with those tools. So in this case, I'm going to delete it, just to do it. So if you have an extra one, the first one, oh, by the way, you'll notice these go chronologically. So oldest to the newest. So I'm going to click on delete. Let's see.
Because I paid $660 and then I paid $330. So that's all that, right? Or that mistake?
It's this one.
This is the one we want.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you did the other, you did the payment for one, right?
Yeah.
That's the right way. And this is the previous one that you paid. This is the one.
Oh, yeah. Click on.
Click on this one.
Click edit. So
It doesn't have one. It doesn't have any information.
go ahead, save and close. So go ahead and click on that one.
This one?
Because it didn't have any information.
Now you get what I got. This transaction you're deleting is linked to others. Are you sure you want to delete it? I'm going to click yes. Now in my case, I didn't need to delete it, so I'm going to go do it again. But you can delete any check except for payroll checks, because payroll checks have so many different accounts from all the withholdings, they don't delete easily. You actually have to go back and do the payroll system. But any other kind of check you can, like I'm going to do here, and it's gone. So that means I got to go back and do it again. By deleting it now, in my case, see I have the one open bill. So that's okay. I can just do it again. Now I go back, it should be there. And then there's ABC, and then there's Fans, and you'll notice it did change my number. It was 1022. So because I deleted it, I guess it figured I voided it. It was a paper check. So it used the next number. I could have overridden that and I could still go back and edit it if I wanted to. I'm not too worried about it. As we make these changes to our checking account here though, it's not changing anything in any bank, right? Because we didn't link these to banks. If you do link your bank accounts to this QuickBooks, it will do them live. It can do them live for an extra fee, monthly fee. But then you don't have to do it twice. Because what's going to happen now is no matter what this says, it may not be the same thing as my bank account. So I have to go back and make the changes too. I have to either make the payments. When I process the payments, then I can reconcile it here too. So does that make sense? All right, so I paid 2 vendors. Let me go back to
Better not to do it live.
it's up to you. It's convenient because otherwise you're almost watching 2 different things at once. By making it live, I don't have to watch this one, right? But the downside is, like the mistakes I just made, I could have accidentally transferred money to the vendor's account and now I'm pulling it back. And going over is easy, bring it back takes longer. And if you do too many of those, you can tie up money that way. We had a student enrolled in a little online class. There's a fee. So he processed a credit card and it's about 6 o'clock in the evening. I happened to be there. He called up. He wanted to cancel. I said, okay, no problem. We'll do that here and I'll mark it for refund. Okay, thanks. Next morning he called up. I didn't get the refund. Where is it? And I said, well, they take the money out of your account right away. Getting it back takes up to 2 weeks. He said, 2 weeks? I don't want to wait 2 weeks. So you know what I think happened? He bought this and realized, oh, now I can't pay the rent. Oh, I better get the money back. And he thought he could just get the money right back. So he's going to call the credit card company and complain about us about not doing that. So the credit card company calls him and says, yeah, I just got this call. He wants his money back right away. Did you process it? I said, yeah, here, you want the transaction number? She says, yes. Okay. Does he know it takes 2 weeks? I told him, but I think he needs the money now. So he's panicking. Okay, well, I'll call him back and tell him. And so he had to wait. So that's the way the credit card companies work. So
An insurance company did that. It was the insurance company, even state, charged us a certain 500 and something, and it should have been 400 and something. So she did 500, and then right underneath she did additional. And I called her and I said, oh my gosh, there's 2 entries on our bank statement or our bank entries. And she said, oh yeah, I made a mistake, but by tomorrow you'll get that money. No, we didn't.
Yeah.
I was so peeled.
right,
Because that was her mistake, not mine.
that's right. But that's with electronic transactions, that's the way it goes. They're not immediately like you're working live on a computer.
Yeah.
Right, business days too, right? That does not count weekends. So you can't, when somebody needs the money, they're counting, days, but they have to throw in the weekends.
Or holidays.
But on the other hand, I found when we've done that, they're pretty good within a few days. But they always give themselves that extra lead time just in case, because things do happen. But that's the thing with transactions. It does seem to go one way. So whenever you hear about a credit card losing money, never feel bad for them. They're always okay. They always come out ahead. I don't know if you know this, but when you use your credit card, the vendor with whom you use your card has to pay a fee. They pay a fee to be part of the membership of Discover, Visa, whatever. They also pay a percentage of their sales. And doesn't sound like a lot. It's like 0.02% or something. But $1 million of sales, that's a lot of money. So they make a lot of money on it. And yeah, so never feel sorry for credit card companies. But it's one of those things. It's very convenient. So we're just weighing out conveniences. It's very convenient. In fact, I don't think any store now could survive not taking either debit or credit cards. So the credit card company is doing quite well. And some things they have to worry about fraud and things like that. And there are some protections if you have a debit card and it's also a credit card. If you use the credit side, they can do a refund automatically. If it's a debit side, then it has to go through the bank, the actual bank. And funny thing, I found out when we signed up, the bank name on the card is not the people you're working with. If it says Visa, it's Visa. And Visa may have subcontracted out to somebody else, depending on your number. Like California might be another subcontractor. So it's not exactly like you're just dealing with one entity. It's an entity that's contracted by an entity through this other entity. And it's very convoluted. But that's why the credit cards can be so dangerous. Plus, then they tell you, well, you only have to pay your minimum each month. But of course, by doing that, you're carrying over balances and those interest rates will get you. Interest on the interest. All right. So I don't know, but we've been paying with a checking account. Some companies will use a company credit card, either because they need it or because the boss wants the airline miles. They do all those little incentives, and there's a reason, because the more you use it, the more likely they're going to be able to extract some funds from both sides. So it does happen, but that's why Bitcoin and all these other alternatives seem so attractive, because they're alternatives to this. You wouldn't have to deal with this system. All right, let's do another one. I'm going to go to my third vendor and create purchase order. The shortcut, a short name for a purchase order is PO. So I'm going to create a PO. So I'll pick up another product. I'm going to pick a different one. We'll do dog leashes. I'm going to order 55 of these. You always start with a vendor, but it doesn't show on the screen. You have to use the pick list, the drop-down list here. So where it says create bill, I use that little drop-down list, and here's create purchase order. Yeah, that's another one of those suggestions I would have with them, is to give you an option. If you're going to use purchase orders, why have to do this all the time? Purchase order should be first, but they definitely favor people not using purchase orders by putting them up there. So by doing that, it'll bring up the purchase order. Eventually, there it comes. So I'm going to my item details, and I'm going to do my dog leashes. And I said just 55. And I'll save and close. So done. And there it is in my blue purchase order, pending. Well, what a great vendor. Same day I ordered it, they brought it over, so I'm going to create bill. As I mentioned before, it'd be very rare to have the vendor deliver the same day you create the purchase order. Usually there's a gap.
No, that was the good one. See the purchase order? Okay, so yeah.
I think they forgot and I added another.
Yes, like,
Yes. Click on it one time. There it goes. Now you made the bill. It's just one time.
Yeah, if you double click, it turns it on and off.
Yeah.
Okay, because see the 330, it's still there. And I deleted it, but it didn't.
Okay, click on that.
You have to delete it.
We deleted the payment, but not the bill.
And I probably transferred it.
What up the bill? Is this one? Okay, so now click the back arrow.
Okay, so now, what do you have to do? Purchase orders.
You don't have to do a deal first.
Okay,
Now it's telling me to
so
pay
here,
it.
you did do one.
See the 330, there it is again.
You know what happened?
Yeah.
I think we deleted the wrong.
Oh. Okay, so,
Yeah.
oh, and I need to click here.
That's a deal. So you want to see the deal.
Oh,
You can see the deal there.
oops, click only once.
Yeah, so that's enough. It's only once. You don't do it
Oh
twice.
my
You don't do it twice, you can just go back.
Don't worry about that extra one right now. We'll do
You
it
know
at the end of
what,
class.
I think
Fix it.
Okay.
Had 50-50 chance,
then
better
we're gonna
odds than
create
Megan, I
this.
missed it.
For the,
Yeah.
for the.
Yeah, and then saving books.
Oh,
So I already saw that. So I, and then you save it in close and then you go to save. Here, so now you go to instant bill.
So when I go to create bill, it's 75.
There's a balance. So it's not good.
Is it gonna take me like-
So you just go save.
Yeah.
Oh, it shows me.
Okay, oh, no.
now it's free. Okay.
Uh,
So
close
now
it.
see, the 330 is still here.
So we only have 75, right?
Yeah.
Okay, your system is, there's a setting to bring over the last transaction. So go ahead and create bill.
So you would create
So
that
scroll down.
bill to pay.
See what's sitting there? Hit that. Delete.
Oh, so
Yeah.
like you're gonna have one.
Yes.
But-
Yeah, no, she didn't.
But it's.
Or you can just leave it there.
Sometimes when it sets it up,
Okay.
it does that.
Yeah, just
So
leave
for
it
our
there so
purposes,
you can-
it's not
Oh.
So
really
you'll have to
legal.
go back and delete it.
So really,
Yeah,
that's-
yeah, that's what we-
Class.
yeah,
Oh,
So tomorrow, Monday, that doesn't do that.
So I need, I clicker, I mean, yeah, clicker.
I was like, I got it.
Yeah.
Myself.
And
And
this one, it's only one, so you do it twice.
I would just pay it.
That would've been okay. You just had more stuff to sell, all right?
Like, extra.
So we save and close. And now I have an open bill. I'll go ahead and pay it. There it comes finally. So there's my basic checking, save and close. So I got $535. Let's take a look at the checking account just to make sure I made it there. I'm going to view the register. And there it is. Okay, we're going to do one more purchase order. This time, we're not going to receive it. We're going to wait till Monday. So, I go to get paid and pay. And my last vendor. Just like we did before, went to vendors. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see the get paid and pay. Or you can use the back button. I'll take you back there too. My last one is XYZ Warehouse. So there's my purchase order. Teddy bears, 5. And I'm going to save and close. So I do have one purchase order outstanding, and I'm going to save it to Monday. While we're here, I'm going to go in this cog where I go to the chart of accounts. I want to go to account and settings. And if you don't have an address, we're going to put it in here in the account and settings part. Up here, excuse me, the cog. You should see this account and settings. And then it pops up, and here's my company address. So it's 640 M Street. There it is. It pops up in the list. We used to be able to make these up just out of, you can make up any street, any city you wanted, but now it verifies. Yeah. Make sure everybody got it. Save it, and then you'll see company facing address. It's going to be the same as the company address. You could be different if your store, which is a customer facing address, is at a different location than where you want all the bills and all the legal documents to go. But they'll be the same. Are you in accounts and settings? Okay. You scroll down. You might have to scroll down a bit.
Yeah, it says address and then it says customer.
That's okay.
I was looking at that. The left-hand side.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of those things that even experts will have trouble with because you never go into this. You said it once and then you forget it. And 2 years later, you got to go back and change it. And you're like, okay, how do I do that again?
Can we just save it as well?
Yeah. Once you click save, you don't have to do the customer facing. It's the same. It's kind of like when you fill in your credit card information and it will say, you know, is it the same as the delivery address? And there we go. Any questions about what we did? Yeah. Well, you get to practice because we'll do it again Monday. We definitely have one purchase order we got to receive on Monday, and then we'll do sales. And that's kind of the opposite, where the items go out of your store, and then you collect the money, and then you retire. Yeah. Well, if you sell the right thing to the right people, it can happen. You want to fix that one?
Checking. No chart of accounts, right?
You picked it up and looked it up with
See, so it's not you.
Oh.
You too. Have a good one. Thank you.
So,
Oh, yeah. All right, Trish, see you. I doubt I'm making the shirt. on
okay,
the
so you
phone.
actually have
Oh, yeah.
two purchase
Tomorrow,
orders,
at the day
3
before.
each.
Oh, so I
You
saw
wanna keep
this. Like, I make it, and I was like, "Did you like-"
Okay.
I just saw it right now. You're artsy.
Sure.
Well, thank
Yes,
you.
thank
you.
You're welcome. You too.
Okay, so there, see, it's still there.
Well, you have one for,
So then I have 4, because the original was 330, and now I have 990. So I went trigger happy, that was
Okay.
when I went.
go ahead and delete that one.
Okay.
That's a bill. That's on the first. That's okay.
Oh,
On this first one. Top one.
the top one, okay, because, otherwise, I'm just deleting the purchase order, not the bill, I don't get the money back, right? So right now,
Well, now you did, because we started with a payment, so you got your money back, but it never went out, right?
yes,
Because we didn't link. So that's clear. We just have to backtrack now to purchase order, which you did.
okay,
So here's the one purchase order.
so 330.
Good.
Okay,
So go back to your vendors. So now we have a purchase order for 330 we need to work with.
first one. Oops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Links the purchase order to this payment for 330. Good.
Okay, and then we save in bills.
So now,
Okay, so now I just,
bill.
oh, okay, and pay bill, make a payment.
Right.
Oh. Okay,
There you go.
okay,
Now you actually have one payment to them,
which is the,
the
okay,
330.
so now I can just close everything.
Yes. So we're ready for Monday.
Probably because I was a little late today, that I was flustered, and then that's why I was triggering the.
That's okay. We try to go as we need to. So if we're ever going too fast, don't be afraid to say, can you slow down a second? Repeat that.